Brother Eric John Phelps, 24/7 World Radio Podcast on this September 3rd, 2025, with Brother George Widger as we continue to delve into the history and present works of the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus, controlled by the devil. So, Brother George, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, brother. As always, it's a pleasure to be on with you.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Okay, so what do you have for us today?
Okay, well, I just want to check. So I thought today was October the 3rd.
It's October the 3rd, 2025.
Oh, okay. I must have misheard you. I thought you said September the 3rd.
I probably did. So
Oh,
thank you for the correction. It's October the 3rd, 2025, and now we're ready to go. Okay.
okay. So I wasn't correcting you. I just thought I must have misheard you. Okay, so my scripture verse is Genesis 2, verses 22 through 24. Well, I'll start in verse 21. So Genesis 2, verses 21 through 24. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with these passages, and as are probably most of your listeners. And it says, "And the Lord caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof." Verse 22. "And the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is bone of my bone, and flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman, because she is taken out of man. And therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Okay, so this principle is establishing several concepts: the subordination of women to men, and specifically the wife to the husband. So that doesn't mean the husband is to be an ogre, and that he's supposed to abuse her. He's supposed to love his wife, as Christ loved the church. However, there in order to have a society, in order to have a business, in order to have any type of organization, you have to have subordination. We can't live in a world where everybody is exactly equal and everybody has equal say. If you find a company, somebody whom you just hire off the street can say, you know what, I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you how to run your business, or how successful is that business going to be?
Well, not quite sure, Jordan. What did you say once again?
Okay, so in any organization, whether you're talking a society, whether you're talking about a company, oh, all right. Sorry about that. I need to take a step outside. Oh, okay. Apologize for that because I'm still working on my sound studio. Um, okay. In any organization, business, society, you can't have a situation where everybody is equal, where everybody's say is just as valuable as anybody else. There has to be a pecking order. There has to be, well, hierarchy. That's just how things work. Because,
That's right. That's how anything of any value works, whether it's the military or the family or, in a church, there is always a hierarchy. There are always those who lead and are in charge. There has to be. So
okay,
the doctrine of universal equality is a socialist, communist, Jesuit doctrine put upon us to confuse us and to destroy any sort of order, while they themselves have a strict order, chain of command for the Jesuit order. Go ahead, George.
well, yes. So, in principle, having, you know, universal equality, or where you have an egalitarian society, sounds great in principle, but it doesn't work in reality. You had to have leadership. You had to have somebody in charge. And the way this worked for millennia is the man is in charge, or at least he's supposed to be in charge.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
That's right, George. Did you hear me all right? Can you hear me fine?
Yes, I'm sorry. I had to step out because my neighbor was running the chainsaw. So, anyhow, so I guess you wanted to talk about some current events, because we talk usually offline at least once a week. And I guess a few days ago, Tuesday, the Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War, as he's now called, Pete Hegseth, called 800 leaders, admirals and generals, for a conference. And you said you caught some of this conference.
I did.
Okay, so what did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was a rally. I thought it was a pep rally to get them in shape and prepare them emotionally and physically for the coming crusade that will be taking place in the Middle East as well as in the Far East. So I tend to think that's what that was about.
Okay, and what about Main Street USA?
Well, he's talking to generals and admirals, and that usually has to do with things overseas, but it could have something to do with here also once they put the place on under martial law. So
Okay,
it just depends where these generals are going to be and how many of them are going to be rifted. When I was in the Air Force, we called it rifting. They would rift officers if they couldn't make rank, so they were rifted. And one of the ways they would be rifted is they would be overweight. So,
ah,
you know,
okay, and by the way, that's American slang for reduction in forces. Now, and by the way, I looked this up. The British term for that is they call it demobbing, demobilization. So it's basically the same. So after a war and they don't need as many soldiers, they'll say, hey, you need to get out. And so some people were concerned, those on the so-called left are saying, yes, they may be using these getting these leaders ready to fight a war in the Middle East, but it could be very well be turning them on places like Chicago or Portland, Oregon.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's enough savagery and crime and destruction of property going on out there to justify dispatching a military in there to put an end to it.
And you're not talking about, say, the Oregon National Guard or the Illinois National Guard. You're talking about regular combat forces, which, technically speaking, is illegal. But what is that?
Well,
What is,
well, when I would say National Guard, but if they can't do it, then I put in a military force because what are you going to do when they're burning your cities down? What are they going to do when they rob, rape, and pillage everywhere? You have to restore order. Man must be ruled, and he either is going to rule himself or he will be ruled by someone else. So when they're destroying property and carrying on like they are, it's totally legitimate to put them under martial law, put troops in the street. Yep.
okay. So one of the things Hexas
And
has
by the way, the president has the right to declare martial law under Proclamation 2040 of March 9th, 1933. All the
ah
powers of garrisoning forces overseas, declaring martial law, is all under Proclamation 2040 of March 9th, 1933.
okay. So this law, if you will, has been in effect for over 90 years.
That's right. 92
Okay,
years.
okay. So so Hex has made several other interesting comments. And you made reference to one of them already. They said, well, we're no longer going to have these transsexuals, these men who are wearing dresses or dyeing their hair purple or wearing nose rings. Those days are over.
I
And
didn't know they
everybody,
allowed it. Dyeing their hair like that, those different colors. Did they allow that in the military?
well, yes, they did. I mean, there are videos over the last few years of people posting TikTok videos who are actually in the service, enlisted officers saying, wearing, men wearing makeup, and things like that.
Yeah. When I was stationed in Germany, I was stationed at Spangdahlem Air Force Base for 3.5 years. And
Hmm.
we would get, updates. We would have the base would go on alert. And one of the things we were told is the worthlessness of the Dutch army. You said they had long hair, beards, and totally undisciplined. He says, if we get invaded by the Soviets, they're not going to be any help to us. And so it's the same way here. If you don't have a disciplined army with spit and polish, you're not going to be able to fight in the battlefield. That's what Patton did. First thing he did when he went to North Africa, and so after the Americans got whipped by Rommel, he said, this place needs discipline. And you can see it on the movie Patton with George C. Scott.
Hmm.
So with an undisciplined army, they're not going to win anything. So Hegseth is right. There has to be some discipline, some appearance. He's right. I believe everything he said is right. Except I don't believe that we need to go and have a crusade for the Pope, which Hegseth is going to lead. Go ahead.
Oh, of course. Now, one of the appeals of somebody like Pete Keswick or Tucker Carlson or Charlie Kirk, is you agree with most of the things they say because it's reasonable, it's commonsensical. So yeah, that's something I've been thinking for a long time. But you have somebody like Hexeth or Carlson just simply articulate it. And so that is the appeal. And you probably had millions of men who hitherto had never thought about these ideas. Yeah, he's right. Why do we put up with all this nonsense? Why have we done this for years and decades? Enough is enough.
Well, we haven't done it, George. This filthy Jesuit ruled military government that's been leftist and socialist communist since the days of FDR has shoved this down our throats. I didn't want it. Did you vote for it? Did you call for it? It's all been shoved down our throats, giving no remedy. And so now it's gotten so bad, the Jesuits are going to give the remedy, and that's the new right. Go ahead.
Ah, and of course, you have Hexeth and Carlson and Kirk and so forth, who are basically the Pied Pipers of the new right.
Yes, they were. Remember, Charlie Kirk was a member of National Council for National Policy, just like Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway, those two Roman Catholics. So the Council for National Policy is a very diabolical organization, but it's right wing. It's a precursor to the imposition of new right quasi-fascist martial law.
Ah, well, the so as a saying that now I realize we didn't do a show last week, so some things happened in the intervening period. I guess on Sunday, the 22nd of last month, they have the memorial service for Charlie Kirk, Charles James Kirk, not to be confused with James T. Kirk of the USS Enterprise, or Charles Kirkland of the movie Snake Eyes.
That's right. It's
And
the movie Snake Eyes for the listener, and also the Star Trek where you had Captain Kirk,
yes,
Captain
James
James
T.
Kirk. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the movie Snake Eyes came out on August the 7th, 1998, so 27 plus years ago, which was the 185th or 84th anniversary of the reestablishment of the Jesuits, which had taken place in 1814.
Oh, the reestablishment. Yes. Mhm. Your voice sounds muffled, George. I don't know why, but it doesn't sound sharp. It's muffled.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to mumble more clearly. And so, yes, I'm saving up for those elocution lessons. Uh,
Okay.
so, so, um, so the movie. Okay, so I'm not. I haven't caught this, but have you discussed the movie Snake Eyes in one of your broadcasts?
No, I haven't. No,
Oh, I thought you did. Okay, so the film came out in 1998, August the 7th, and you said you just recently saw it.
I did. I saw it a few nights ago.
Okay, so it starred Freemasonic Nicholas Cage, who's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, and Roman Catholic Gary Sinise.
Mhm.
And as I said, one of the characters in the film is, I guess, the Secretary of the Navy, or was it Defense? Charles Kirkland, not to be confused with Charlie Kirk. And this Kirkland is fatally shot in the neck
That's right.
by Tyler, I believe by Tyler the executioner.
Yep.
Okay, who
Shot in
is
the
also
neck. Uh-huh. Shot in the
okay.
neck rather than up close. So
Oh,
it was a distance. Over he was shot over the fighting ring of the boxing ring by an assassin. So, but they've had some tremendous parallels. Like the Secretary of State was Charles Kirkland, and the guy who the black fighter there, he was known as Tyler the Executioner. And this happens on September 10th. Those are three of the things in that movie that are quite striking, and it looks like the Jesuits were doing a little programming there with their Jesuit actor, um, Mr. Cupola, or his
Nicholas Cage.
Mr. Nicholas Cage. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, okay. So, as they've been using him for decades to serve all their agendas, as they've used Gary Sinise for all their agendas, like Apollo 13 and not Saving Private Ryan. He was in Forrest Gump, among other things. And of course, I like Gary Sinise because he seems to be, I realize he's an actor and all that sort of stuff, but he seems to be conservative. He seems to be right minded. He doesn't strike me as being a hardcore communist like most actors in
Yeah,
Hollywood.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So that is his appeal to the new right.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the end game, dear listener, is the new right. I was taught this years ago by a dear lady named Betty Mills in the 1980s. And she taught me all about the New Right and the Council for National Policy and Oliver North and William J. Casey and Louis Lerman of Rite Aid and all these knights, all New Right. Richard Mellon Scafee. So it's the New Right that's underneath all this. This Council for National Policy of a bunch of rich, evil white men that run it. But go ahead, George.
Oh, okay. So something you're all right. So in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk incident, and as I said, there are different people who have different views. Was he actually shot? You're of the opinion that yes, he was shot and he's no longer with us, and other people disagree.
Yeah, I
Okay,
say that he was shot. He was shot in the right side of his neck. It passed through the neck, which gave that balloon look. There's a Marine who illustrates that. It's exactly what happens. And then it exited his uh, left side of his neck. It was an exit wound, and he was shot with a 38 from what I call the white shirt shooter. And you can find this on my website at 24/7 World Radio. And then you just go to EJP or archive programs, click on that at the top, and then go down to EJP Hour 2, click on that, and go all the way down to the bottom. I have 2 videos there, and I have about 4 postings on it so that people can see it. But the one video is a narrated video, and the guy narrates it and showing you how the guy in the white shirt raised his arm with the gun and shot Kurt in the neck. So that settles it for me. And it was a 38 because there was no shell being ejected. I thought it was a 380, but it was a 38. So anyway, go ahead. Oh, by the way,
okay.
FBI knows all about this, but they don't want to do anything about it. So now we have a huge cover up from Donald Trump on all the way down. And of course, Trump is orchestrated and told what to do by the Archbishop of New York City, and which is Timothy Cardinal Dolan, and then he's controlled by the Pope Leo the 14th, and he's controlled by the Jesuit general. So that's the chain of command in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which nobody on the TV will ever tell you about. But go
Uh,
ahead.
okay, so even so, and as I said, there are a number of dissenting views. Some people are of the opinion that Charlie Kirk was not killed. This was a hoax, and even if he were dead, it would be safe to say that his accused gunman, Tyler Robinson, did not do it.
Of course not. That's that's such a ridiculous, nonsensical putting forward of this uh, alleged assassin kid with the 30-06 rifle. I mean, it's the most outrageous, bombastic report that uh, Patel could give to see how stupid the American people really are. Well, the vast majority aren't buying it. There was no 30-06 round that hit Kirk, and the coroner's lying, and there's been no coroner's report as of now because they don't want to talk about those wounds in the neck. So it's all a huge, massive cover-up, and Trump's behind it. But go ahead, let's talk about your stuff, George.
Okay, well, that took place on September the 10th, Wednesday the 10th. So the 24th, the eve of the 24th anniversary of 9/11. And because everybody was talking about the whole Charlie Kirk situation, virtually nobody talked about the 24th anniversary of 9/11. It was as if it didn't happen. And I wonder if they were done by design. And of course, a number of people are saying that, well, Charlie Kirk was on the team, but he wasn't following orders. People like Candace Owens. He started raising questions about October the 7th, almost 2 years ago to the day. And so they say, did the Israeli Defense Forces actually stand down for 6 or 7 hours, however long it was supposed to
Seven
be?
hours. Absolutely, they did. There's no question about it.
Okay, so why is that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so why is that so controversial?
So, well, because the intelligence agencies want to make it controversial. I mean, come on. Have you ever been to Israel, George? Ever been there?
I have not.
I've been there 3 times. And and I was there visiting my friend Joel Bainerman, and he said, "Oh, by the way, Eric, I want you to know something. Mossad is everywhere." There's no way they didn't know about it because they facilitated it.
Mhm.
Netanyahu worked with the head of Hamas, who was in Doha, Qatar. They worked together. I proved this in my summation. It's on my website. They all worked together. And if whoever denies there was a stand down order is a bull-faced liar. There's nothing going down in Israel. It's going to take 7 hours for the IDF to respond to. That's nonsense.
Mhm. And of course, something I think we mentioned before, one of Netanyahu's brothers, Ido, Iddo, did graduate work at Georgetown University. He's a medical doctor.
And who is that again, George?
Ido Netanyahu,
Oh, that's his brother.
correct,
So his brother went to Georgetown.
correct. Well, he did graduate work there. So yes.
Yeah, so there's the obvious connection of the Jesuits at Georgetown and the leader of Hamas, his connection with the Georgetown University in Doha. They have a extension over there in Doha. So you got the Jesuits running him, you got the Jesuits running Netanyahu. And they're both Freemasons, by the way.
Mhm.
So it's all orchestrated to cause this war to end for the destruction of the mosque and the Temple Mount so the Pope can build the third Hebrew temple for himself because he owns the Temple Mount. He deeded it. It was deeded to him by Yossi Bellin in 1993. So it's the Pope's Temple Mount, and he's going to, through this war, be able to build the third Hebrew temple. But to facilitate the building of that, you have to have the cooperation of the Gaza leader and the Zionist leader, Netanyahu, to do it, to bring it about. And they both subject to the Pope. This is what Candace Owens will never see, and she will never want to agree to, that this is all a work of the papacy and the Jesuit order. It's not the Zionists in and of themselves. The Zionists have never governed Israel by themselves. They've always been in a place of being told what to do by papal advisors like James Jesus Angleton and Oliver North, Lyndon Johnson, and others. They're all told what to do. Mossad is the tail of the CIA. Israel runs nothing. The Jews don't run that country. It's the revived Latin kingdom of Jerusalem and the Jews living in the Latin kingdom of Jerusalem from 1099 to 1291. They never ran that country. It was run by the Knights Templars. And the Knights Templars run it today, except they're called Freemasons, working for the Pope. But go ahead, George.
Well, anyhow, so that reminds me. So getting back to Charlie Kirk, I guess his event took place on the 10th of this month or last month. And 11 days later, on I guess Sunday the 21st, they had his memorial service at I guess, was it State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, which is just outside of Phoenix. And it seemed more like a halftime show than it did a memorial service. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised the Rolling Stones didn't perform.
Yeah. Well, it was another Trump rally, is what it was.
Ah,
That's all it was. And they're laughing, and Tucker Carlson's laughing, and you got the guy out there with a rosary with the beads with a cross on it. He's going to hold it up, and it's a call to the new right Roman Catholics, Catholics for Catholics, that Trump entertained in his Mar-a-Lago mansion in Florida. So was one huge, big Roman Catholic celebration campaign for Trump, the apostate Protestant, with Tucker Carlson, the apostate Protestant. So he just came out, and most of the people that spoke there were accomplices in the assassination of Kirk.
okay, so you had at least five Catholics on stage. His widow, or his Erica.
Yeah, his widow that's wearing a cross of the Knights of Malta around her neck. Yeah.
Well, yes. So you had his widow. You had I'm drawing. Oh, RFK Jr. So you had at least five Catholics on stage.
Yeah.
You had I'm
Yeah,
drawing.
Didn't Steve Bannon talk? Was he
Uh,
there?
yes, I think it was. So you're talking about at
That's
least
another.
five.
Steve Bannon, JFK or RFK Jr. You have that guy with a rosary. That's three. You got who else? JD Vance. That's four. Um, so it was one great
Marco.
big Catholic hootenanny.
Oh yes,
Ecumenical pro-Roman Catholic hootenanny.
oh yes, you had Marco Rubio. So five, six, and of course you had at least one Nemo Malta in Erica, and at least one night in Malta in the aforementioned Pete Hegseth.
Okay, one night of Malta. What now, George? Say it's
At least one. Okay, at least one night in Malta in Pete Hegseth.
Oh, yes, Pete Hegseth. Yeah, Pete Hegseth is a Knight of the Equestrian Order because he's got a cross of the Equestrian Order tattooed on his left breast. And he's got the Templar cry in Latin, God wills it, tattooed underneath his right arm. So he's a crusader. And he's going now the Secretary of War. Trump's appointed as crusader. Now they're going to have a great big crusade in the Middle East. And I was just reading in the History of Freemasonry, Volume 2, how the Knights Templars and the Knights of Malta conducted a huge crusade in Palestine to take all of the Palestine for themselves, which they call Palestine.
Ah,
That's what we're going
ah,
to have again. After this
ah,
war, the boundaries of Israel will be enlarged. The government of Israel will be greatly increased. It will fare very well through this war that's coming, so they can build their third Hebrew temple for the Pope.
ah. So, uh, so something I wanted to mention is now you have all sorts of people who are up in arms about Donald Trump, about what he's been doing for basically the last, what, 8 or 9 months, since he's been in office again. And so there's talk about members of Congress trying to draft articles of impeachment against him and invoking the 25th Amendment. And one of the politicians who's leading this charge is Dan Goldman, Daniel Sachs Goldman.
Oh, we got another Jew. So we got to have these Jews that are left-wing socialist communists openly opposing Trump.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, Dan Goldman, as I said, his full name is Daniel Sachs Goldman, and he's 49 years old. He was born on the 26th of February, 1976, in Berkeley, California. But I guess I'm not sure how he became a congressman in New York. Okay, so what is the Roman nexus with him? Well, his brother Bill, William Goldman, was a history professor at University of San Francisco. Now,
Oh,
Bill,
Jesuit University of San Francisco. So there's a Jesuit connection to him. Because, you know, the
Mhm,
Jesuits like to use these upfront Jews so they can blame all the Jews in general for their upfront papal court Jews, as they were called by Nelson Thal and Sherman Skolnick, that I used to be on many years ago with them. Sherman Skolnick called them the papal court Jews, the Hofjuden. Go ahead.
mhm. Okay, so if you know anything about Dan Goldman, check off all the boxes on his position on anything. It'll be wrong. Second Amendment, abortion, immigration, healthcare.
Yeah, everything that's destroying the country. Yeah. Everything. That's why Trump has got such a following, because he's been reversing all the destructive activity of the left wing socialist communist Democrats and communist Roman Catholic Joe Biden. And so we're getting some relief because Joe Biden put Trump in office. All the radical, terrible things that hurt us terribly done by the Democrats put Trump in power. Without the Democrats, we don't have what's going on now. I call them the communist Democrats because that's what they are. They're absolutely open socialist communists.
And I know we have discussed it before, and they've used it. The Jesuits have used this play before. Back in the late 30s, they had Neville Chamberlain, who helped get put Winston Churchill back in office. Or actually, he wasn't. Well, he enabled the blunders of Chamberlain, or the alleged blunders of Chamberlain. He was able to get Winston Churchill installed as Prime Minister of the UK in the 1940s, because Chamberlain, had the reputation of being a weak leader. He made all these concessions to Hitler in Czechoslovakia, specifically the Sudetenland, the southern land. And
Yeah,
I guess I don't
yeah.
know. This was in 1938. So I guess Chamberlain flew to Germany, I guess Munich, and had a meeting with Hitler. And he came back to England and with a piece of blank paper, and he said, I have an agreement here with Herr Hitler from Herr Hitler, saying there will be no invasion of the Sudetenland." And
You know,
almost
was that a blank piece of paper, George?
correct,
So Hitler never signed anything.
correct.
It makes perfect sense with Brother Freemason Neville Chamberlain. Yeah. A Mason
Okay.
is just setting up both sides for the benefit of the Jesuit order to have a huge war in the annihilation of historic white Protestant peoples, Germany and England. Yep. And
Mhm.
the
And
Netherlands.
and Czechoslovakia and
And
places.
that's in the Czechs. They were all Protestants. The Czechs, the Slovaks were Roman Catholic. The Czechs were Protestants.
Well,
The merging of those two countries was done at the Versailles Treaty, the wicked Versailles Treaty. So they're going to create Czechoslovakia, which would facilitate a war.
oh, okay. Well, I think you mentioned this probably well over a decade, but prior to 1939, there was a fairly sizable Lutheran enclave in Poland. By the end of the war, it had all but disappeared. Almost all of them had been killed. Also, you had fairly sizable Protestant and Lutheran, enclaves throughout Eastern Europe, in Romania, in Hungary, in the Ukraine. They said, "Oh, I'm sorry, they're victims of the war."
Yeah, they were all destroyed in World War II by Joseph Stalin. Yeah. Stalin killed the Protestants, Hitler killed the Jews. So Hitler would move in, kill the Jews, and when Stalin would invade, he'd kill the Lutherans. I met a Lutheran lady in the dentist office many years ago. She said I was a little girl and we just barely escaped out of Lithuania from Stalin's Red Army. So the Jesuits' control of Stalin Red Army was busy killing off heretics, liberal Lutherans, as
Mhm.
well as Orthodox. Yeah. That's why I always show you that Stalin and Hitler worked together. And
Well,
Hitler's
uh,
liaison between Stalin was Martin Bormann. Go ahead.
well, one of the things, it's been years since I've read this, but one of the things I recall reading in Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago is when he was in prison, the Gulag, he met a number of Baptist and Protestant ministers who were behind bars. And he asked, "So what did you do wrong?" "Nothing. We just simply did our jobs." And so And that is something that's been swept under the rug.
That's right. They also killed the Mennonites too. So many Mennonites, they took turns raping them, and then they killed them. That was what the Red Army did to the Mennonites in Prussia and in Russia. I have the record of it here.
Um, okay, so I mentioned this Dan Goldman and his brother Bill. Well, something I don't think I mentioned is Bill died in a plane crash near Sonoma, California. So fairly close to where I live, at the age of 38. Now, I'm not sure if Bill was ritually sacrificed for his brother to get into office. Who knows? It could have been a legitimate accident. Who knows? But that's why you don't hear from Bill anymore.
You see,
And
so Bill's no longer with us anymore. Okay.
correct. So, but it is, you know, but as I said, Dan is, and so he could be a good. Well, but he's still a very good socialist communist. Destroying the state of New York or representing the state of New York.
Representing the state of New York. Now try to get closer to your microphone, George. I think you're muffled and I can't
Oh,
understand you. So it doesn't sound clear. Am I clear? Do
okay.
I sound clear to you?
Oh, Leo and Charlie, loud and clear.
Okay, well, you don't sound real clear. You sound kind of muffled, not like normal. So maybe you want to get closer to your microphone or something.
Okay, so how is this?
That's better.
Oh, okay. I was just holding it. Well, maybe about 6 inches away, but now I'm like an inch or two away.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyhow, I was just looking at my notes, and there's something I just wanted to mention on local a local news item. Well, I mentioned one, the death of Bill Goldman, which is happened 8 years ago, but there was something that just happened last week. Now, something I've mentioned almost in every stream is I live in Sonoma County, California. So specifically, the town of Cotati, Cotati, and Cotati has a population less than 10,000 people. Now, we do have more than one traffic light, unlike Newmanstown.
That's right.
Now,
Only one traffic light in my little town here. That's right.
okay, so the adjacent town to Cotati is Rohnert Park, Rohnert. Now, Rohnert Park was incorporated in 1962, September, and Cotati the following year. Oh, okay. I realize I'm probably losing some of your audience here. So who cares about all these extraneous podunk towns? Okay, allow me to get to the punchline. Okay, so as I said, Rohnert Park was incorporated in 1962. The first mayor of Rohnert Park was a fellow by the name of Peter Michael Callanan, 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 not Callahan, close. But so, what does Callanan sound like to you?
Well, it sounds like it's Irish Catholic to me.
Ah, you are correct, lad. So, yes, he and his wife, or I guess widow, were members of Elizabeth Seton Hall Church in Rohnert Park for something like 6 years. And he got his undergrad degree from Seton Hall in New Jersey, which is where he's from. He's from Newark, but
Uh-huh.
I guess
And so
after
what's Seton Hall? Is that a Catholic university?
correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess he was in the Navy, and after he got out of the service, he went to college, and then he moved to the West Coast, and he became the first mayor and later the first city manager of Rohnert Park, this podunk town, whom most of your audience members have never heard of. So even these obscure places, they run, or at least they're responsible for their creation.
I see. Well, very
So
good. I mean, that's what the Jesuits do. They take their students and they place them in towns and cities to run them for the Jesuit order, to run their empire here in the Pope's Holy Roman 14th Amendment, socialist, communist, corporate fascist American empire. And so they put their students there, guarantee that they're going to have jobs and they're going to do what they're told. after they've been trained by the Jesuit order or Roman Catholic universities that are controlled by the Jesuits, or like the Ivy Leagues, they're controlled by the Jesuits too. So all their students have places to work in their empire, and they'll use their Federal Reserve Bank to pay them if they're working for the
Okay,
government. But go ahead, George.
so I mentioned this Callanan who just died last week at the age of 94. He was born, I believe, on the 26th of November, 1930. So he was 94, almost 95 years old. And however, one of the co-founders of the city of Runner Park was somebody who died back in 2018, Morris Fredericks. Now, Fredericks lived from 1924 to 1918. He was 92 years old. Now, Callanan was the first mayor and city manager of Runner Park, as I said. But Fredericks was basically one of the co-founders of Runner Park. And Fredericks, and I know I've said this before, but just as a quick reminder, Frederick went to St. Vincent de Paul's High School in Petaluma, California, and he got his undergrad and law degrees from Santa Clara University.
Goody from Jesuit Santa Clara University. It's wonderful.
Correct.
Same
So,
way with Leon Panetta, same school he went to. So when he'd be DCI, head of the CIA, that the Jesuits would have their hooks in him and to tell him what to do. Go ahead.
now something I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but both Fredericks and Callanan were Navy intelligence, and both were Catholic slash Jesuitically educated. And so they're both responsible for creating this new town, Runner Park, back in the early 1960s. That's scary. So
Well, it's not scary. It just makes you angry. If you're a patriot and a true nationalist, as every Bible believing, born again man of God ought to be, a patriotic nationalist, it's upsetting. It makes you angry.
okay, but it's a little bit scary because because the big draw in Runner Park for the last 60 plus years, 65 years has been the campus, Sonoma State University, CSU. And they've had other businesses here like Hewlett Packard. The Freemasonic Hewlett Packard had a plant here for a long time until they closed about 25 years ago. But so you have these men, Callanan and Fredericks, who are Navy intelligence. So they both have.
So they were Navy intelligence in World War II. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Fredericks was World War II. Callanan was Korean.
He was Korean?
Well, during the Korean War.
Oh, during the Korean War. Okay. Yeah. Sure. See, I had fun with that one. They did all sorts of mind control in the Korean War, but yeah, that's right. Go ahead. I have a friend who was in the Korean War. He was a sniper, a long-range shooter, and after he got out, the CIA invited him in to be a member, and he went in, and they instructed him to train long-range snipers for the mafia. Yeah, so there's a CIA mafia connection through snipers. Go ahead, George.
Oh, okay. So, anyhow, I just thought I'd give you a couple of local factoids. So they're in charge of the big stuff, Washington, D.C., New York, Wall Street, Hollywood, the industrial military complex, but they're also in charge of small towns.
Sure.
They run everything.
That's right. Well, they have plenty of little Masonic lodges where the Masons can do what they're told and implement the policies of their superiors, advised by Jesuit coadjutors. Sure.
Well, and by the way, something, this is sort of a side story, but last week, I guess the former FBI director, James Comey, was arrested for committing perjury before Congress. He's supposed to have done this, I guess, in
Yeah.
September.
Now we're going to have that charade because
Okay.
it's going to be. I'm sorry. Go ahead, George. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're probably going to make the point. Go ahead.
Well, actually, go ahead, chime in.
It's going to be a charade. He's not going to be convicted. and it'll take up a whole bunch of time, and it'll be a distraction from what we should really be looking at when they prosecute him and give the whole Shakespearean play. And you
Okay.
told me that there was a connection between Comey's daughter, who is a lawyer, and isn't she somehow involved in that?
Well, actually, I don't think she's his daughter. That would be interesting if she were. I guess the U.S. attorney who I guess is prosecuting the case, her name is Lindsay Hannigan. Now, there again, what does that sound like to you?
Oh, well, she's another Irish Catholic girl. Sure.
Uh, how'd you know with a name like Hannigan?
Because I was raised with them. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yes, her name is Lindsay Hannigan, and she, like Erica Kirk, got her undergrad degree from Regis University in Aurora, Colorado,
Okay,
just
stay
outside.
close to your microphone, George. You're getting blurry again. Okay, stay
Okay,
close to it.
okay, so Lindsay
Much
Hannigan.
better.
Okay, Lindsay Hannigan, like Erica Kirk, got her undergrad degree from Regis University in Aurora, Colorado, which is Jesuit.
Yep.
Now, Lindsay was born on the 21st of July, 1989. So she's 36 years old. And she grew up in Bloomdale, Colorado, I believe. Bloomfield. I had to go look it up, where she went to Holy Names High School, which is Catholic. So she also, like Erica, went to a Catholic high school. Erica went to Notre Dame High in Sherman Oaks, California. Now,
As the twig is bent, so grows the tree. So when the Jesuits get a hold of you in junior high, high school, they got you for life unless you're saved and the Spirit of God indwells you. Go ahead.
well, also, she has something else in common. Well, Lindsay also has something in common with Erica. Erica was it Miss Arizona in 2012, and I guess Lindsay Hannigan ran twice or competed twice in the Miss Colorado contest in 2009, 2010. So they're both fairly attractive women, and of course, I'm sure their looks serve their careers uh, serve them in their career fields. Um,
Well, of course. Sure.
well, I'm not casting any aspersions. I'm sure Ms. Hannigan is a consummate professional. She knows how to do her paperwork and do her due diligence.
Yeah, she's a good Catholic trained by Jesuits, doing her duty, whatever they're telling her to do. Just like
Yeah.
Eric Kirk. Same deal.
Okay.
See, that's why that's why we hate the doctrine of the temporal power. The Pope has the right to rule all governments of the world. That's the doctrine of the temporal power. Therefore, there's no such thing as nationalism allowed. There has to be interdependence, not independence. And so that's what they prepare all their students to do. They prepare them for internationalism. We all in this together. No such thing as individual sovereignty of a nation. Well, you might have some peace then, but that's what they're doing. So that's what we see in America. We see it in many other nations too. But go ahead.
Well, something I've noticed about these new feminists is, in addition to being male haters, I don't want to sound mean, but or
No, they
uncharitable.
hate white men. Let's just say it, George. They hate white men. That's right. That's
But
why
one of
white
the
men
things,
don't want to have anything to do with them. That's why white men are going their own way. Metcow, men going their own way. These radical white feminists, and they don't want anything to do with them. So go ahead. Have your jobs, have your profession, have your dogs and horses, but no, you're not having a man. You don't deserve one.
and,
Go ahead.
and their cats.
Oh, they gotta have their cats too. Oh, sure, of course.
Okay, so if you think about that, okay, in all seriousness, that is incredibly destructive when you have men going their way and they're not dating, they're not courting, they're
Mhm.
not getting married, they're not reproducing. That is a good way to destroy a country
That's
basically
right.
overnight.
That's right. We can thank the feminists for that. And
Oh, oh,
there was a funny movie I watched years ago. It was that Karate Master. What was his name? Jackie Chan. And he was in the movie, and there was some guy in there, and he says, "Guy says, well, I'm going to be getting married." And Jackie Chan says, "What are you going to do that for? In 5 years, she's going to divorce you, take half of everything you ever worked for." He said, "Therefore, just give it to me." I thought those were classic lines, but go ahead, George.
well, indeed. Um, well, so you have this young lady, Lindsay Hannigan, who's his lawyer. Now, perhaps I don't want to cast aspersions, but perhaps she is competent. Perhaps she's qualified to do her job, or maybe she was just simply picked to say, "Hey, you know what? We want you to go after Jim Comey." And you know how I found out who Nancy Hannigan is?
No, how'd you find out, George?
Okay, well, I like to do research and find out what the other side says. And you know how we are talking about Dan Goldman earlier, whose late brother was a professor at University of San Francisco? Well, there's a lady who loves posting anti-Trump videos and anti-MAGA videos. Her name is Elizabeth Euler. I'm sorry, Liz Oyer, Oyer. And she said, we need to fight Donald Trump. We need to fight, Project 2025. That we can't allow America to become this Christo-fascist dictatorship. Blah blah blah.
No, but we
And
want a communist, a socialist communist dictatorship, because that's what they have. That's what they've had since FDR.
okay, well, indeed. So you've never heard of Miss Euler, and I imagine most of your listeners have
Thank
not.
God. Yeah, go ahead, George.
But just for last, I just thought I'd share with you her bio. She got her undergrad degree from Georgetown University with Edmund.
Jesuit communist Georgetown. Yeah. Yeah, I had a friend. Well, I used to work with Robert Dudley, and he had a friend, a Jewish guy who was in the Republican Party, went to jail. I forget what his name was. And he went to Georgetown, and he said to Robert, he says, "Why, the Jesuits are all communist, just sheer communism." So whenever you hear the word Jesuit, or Chris Pinner does a good job of that on too. He shows that the Jesuits are the masters of communism. I show it in my book too. So whenever we think of communism, we always have to think Jesuitism.
Well, do you mind if I just give you an addendum to that?
Please do.
Well, yes, they are communists, but they also can play the role of anti-communist.
Of course, they're like I say, they're openly communist. They're secretly fascist. When they want to bring a fascist government to power, they do it with being openly, radically communist. That's what they did in Bavaria. Bavaria was governed by a Jewish radical communist controlled by the Jesuits for 19 months. That facilitated the rise of Hitler to come to power with his right wing Nazism. It's the same game, it's the same play they're doing here.
Okay, so they're using puppets like Bernie Sanders, whose wife is Catholic, Chuck Schumer, who's B'nai B'rith, and he's been a guest at the Al Smith dinner forever. He's
Forever.
spoken,
Yeah.
I mean, for decades, probably going back to at least the
And when the
1980s.
Pope came over here, he just fell down and worshiped. Oh, the Pope's here. The Pope's here. Yeah, Chucky, because he's your master, ain't he? Yeah. Remember, Chucky Schumer was responsible for the murder of those Branch Davidians. Every time I look at that guy, I have nothing but contempt for him. He's got murder all over his face because he murdered Koresh and all the Branch Davidians.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
So I know we've covered this before, but you mind if I just give people a quick refresher on some prominent papal court puppet Jews?
Sure, just keep close to your microphone, George.
Okay, so you know we have Bernie Sanders, as I said, whose wife is Irish Catholic. We've just talked about
So
Chuck
Bernie
Schumer.
Sanders is a Jew. He's a 33rd degree Freemason, or is he B'nai B'rith? And he's a racial Jew. Okay. So here's a
Correct.
racial Jew with a Roman Catholic wife. The Jesuits love that combination. Go ahead.
Okay, so you had Carl Reiner, the father of Rob Reiner, the director, Meathead on All in the Family. Carl got his undergrad degree from Georgetown University, the Edmund A. School, the Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign
or
Service.
first, yeah, that oversaw the Nuremberg trials there because they controlled all the dialogue and were responsible for translation, right at a School of Foreign Service. Yep. Go ahead.
So Martin Ginsburg, the husband of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was an adjunct law professor at Georgetown University.
So we have this Jewess, this radical leftist, socialist, communist Jewess on the Supreme Court, and her husband worked for the Jesuits at Georgetown.
Correct.
Makes perfect sense. Because the Jesuits told her what to do and how to decide things from Georgetown.
Okay, and I know we've mentioned this several times before, but Dianne Feinstein, well, she's had several names. She was born Diane Goldman, then later Diane Berman, and finally Feinstein. She went to, was it Sacred Heart Convent High School in San Francisco?
Yep. So we have this little Jewess there that's getting educated by the Jesuits to man the left-wing Socialist Communist Democratic Party. And also back the Pope's Masonic Jewish labor Zionists running Israel for the Pope, but not for the benefit of the Jewish people. Quite a sordid cast of characters, and it's the same game, just different people take offices.
And of course, Dianne Feinstein was a senator from California for 30 years. Prior to that, she was mayor of San Francisco for most of the 1980s.
Just like we had that Masonic Jew, Arlen Specter here, who was a senator for what, four terms, 5 terms?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a good Jew boy. And I use that term despicably because he's serving the Pope. He was a good little Jew boy for the Jesuit orders, and he covered up the Kennedy assassination. And he was also the one that was responsible authoring the single bullet theory to show how stupid everybody could be to buy that. Yeah, that's good old filthy Arlen Specter. I call him Arlen Sphincter. Go ahead, George.
Oh, okay.
By the way, he's also exposed for the wicked man that he is. Kathy O'Brien's work, Transformation of America. And by the way, Kathy O'Brien's going to be speaking in Michigan in a couple of weeks here, and I'll be there. So I recommend any listener that wants to see and listen to this dear woman that was a presidential model for Reagan and all these other pimps and whores. You need to see and listen to Kathy O'Brien. She's the only one that will finger the Jesuits. So I go and congratulate her, give her a hug, tell her she's doing a great job. And she will be speaking in Eyes Wide Open, and it's going to be held in Michigan. And I think the 3rd week in October this month.
Okay, so a couple weeks from now.
Yep.
Okay, and yeah, I think I mentioned this to you before, but one of the things that Kathy mentions in her book is she talks about Pierre Trudeau, the alleged father of Justin. I don't want to get into a whole discussion about
let's just say, Jordan, he's the stepfather of Justin. Okay.
Okay, indeed.
Because he's a spitting image of Fidel Castro. But go ahead.
Okay, so Kathy said point blank, Pierre Trudeau was a Jesuit, not a lay Jesuit, not a shirt robe, but a full-on collared priest.
Yeah, and what does he do? He brings in all these blacks and Sikhs and East Indians into Canada to make Canada less white. It's like the Jesuits are doing here. They use Trudeau to do that. Yep, it's like they would use Biden for that. Another Roman Catholic working for the Pope, destroying white Protestant Western civilization. Go ahead, George.
Okay, so which Trudeau are you referring to, Pierre or Justin?
Pierre.
Okay,
Pierre bringing all these blacks and into Canada.
Well, I have from a source that between 2017 and 2024, last year, something like over 2.5 million non-ethnic Canadians have moved into Canada. 2.5 million.
Yeah, non-whites. They're non-whites, every last one of them.
And so there
are Asians in there too, and preparing for the Sino-Soviet Muslim invasion of North America.
Okay, so they're moving into places like Vancouver, Winnipeg, Calgary, Toronto.
Historically white Protestant provinces. That's right.
Oh, okay. Just like they're doing to places like uh, the Twin Cities south of the border,
Correct.
specifically Minneapolis. And
Correct. Which used to be Lutheran, white and Lutheran. Got to get rid of those people. So we got rid of World War II now. And
okay, and just like they're doing to Boise, Idaho.
why, sure. We can't have any white peoples. We can't have any white towns. Why, that's a sin, George. We got to race mix them and miscegenate them under, what is it, equity, equality, and diversion or whatever. Inclusion, yeah, diversion. A communist little phrase to destroy historic white Protestant peoples. Can't have them. Got to get rid of them.
Oh, oh, okay. And I don't mean to keep harping on this, but you're talking, oh, all right. If you're talking about a country like Germany, which has what 85 million people, it's different if you inundate the country with people from the third world, the Middle East and South Africa, which and that's different than say with if you do that same thing to Norway, which only has 5 million people. It's a considerably smaller country. So, uh,
All the listeners need to know this is not a coincidence. The destruction of white race nations is a plan, it's a conspiracy. There's nothing about a theory, it's factual. It just doesn't happen. It's part of the Jesuit order's counter Reformation because if you can destroy historically white nations, you'll never have another Reformation because there was no Reformation in any Hispanic country, any Black country, or any Asian country. None. They never started a country except Liberia. And that was because a bunch of white Protestants helped the Black Protestants get their own country, the Protestant Black country of Liberia. But that's gone. Got to get rid of us. It's like that black mulatto professor at University of North Carolina. He said, we got to kill him off the face of the earth. He was a professor advocating the genocide of white race peoples, and the people in charge of that university never got rid of him. And I laughed because he was half white himself. But go ahead.
well, so you mean mulattoes?
Mulattoes, that's right.
Okay, so well, they tend to be oftentimes the most vicious.
They're the most vicious. That's right. Just like the Chicanos are the most vicious over the Mexicans. You got the mulattoes and the Chicanos. They're the vicious ones. And they're a cross. They're a cross between Mexican and white and then black and white. And as I've always said in my broadcasts, these mulattoes, they always side with the blacks. They never side with their white parent. And never. Good old Barry Davis Obama is a classic example of that. And Eric Holder, and every last one of those mulattoes. So when these white women are laying down with these blacks and producing all these mulattoes, they're destroying the white race. So these white women are destroying the white race peoples of their country.
Ah, well, and couldn't you say they may be committing sins of commission as well as omission, meaning when they're actively fornicating, that's one thing, but
Well,
when
of
they're
course,
actively
they're actively fornicating and copulating and producing all these bastard mulatto babies. And then they run to the government. We need money. So they get, what, $1,500 a month, something like that. So the government facilitates all this fornication to produce all these bastard mulattoes. So then they can teach them to hate white people and weaponize them against us, to use them against us to commit crimes every day, killing and robbing and raping white people in America and Canada every single day. As I've said, they kill 10 white people a day in North America and they rape at least 100 white women a day. Charlie Kirk said, he said they kill 600 white women every year. Maybe that's one reason why they killed him. You can't report black on white crime now. Why, you'd be a racist and a prejudice and do something. Go ahead, George.
oh, okay, so what I mean by sins of omission versus commission is actively fornicating or copulating, blacks and whites, but also omission is doing just the opposite, not reproducing or not reproducing
Yeah,
at
not reproducing with white men. Yeah, that's right.
okay, so it's a win-win situation because I
Right.
think
It's win-win for the Jesuits. That's exactly right.
so if you have these native populations such as in Germany or Denmark or Sweden or
Yeah, get
wherever.
close to your microphone, George.
Oh, okay, when you have these native populations in places like Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and so forth, where for the most part, white couples, native Germans, are not reproducing. They're having one or maybe two children at most.
Yeah, and you know why?
Well, for a number of reasons. One, they can't afford to have more than that
Yeah,
because
they're
they're basically being taxed to death.
taxed to death. The Germans pay 60% income tax. So do the Netherlands. So do the whites in the Netherlands. So the Jesuits have put these white peoples, historic white Protestant peoples, under a horrible, terrible, heavy, progressive, socialist, communist income tax.
Okay, so the counter argument to that is yes, they are heavily taxed, but they do get a return for their services.
Like
They
what?
have,
Like what?
well, allegedly free healthcare,
Free
free
healthcare is
education.
nothing. Free healthcare. Who wants to have free healthcare at the hands of those inquisitors? I don't want them to touch me. If anything
Oh,
I've learned in the last 50 years is that they're a bunch of inquisitors and they're out to kill you unless they're putting you back together if you hurt yourself. We got
okay.
a whole nation on drugs, all because of the inquisitional medical profession. I don't want free money to take their drugs.
And you don't want to go or send your children or your grandchildren to their indoctrination camps,
No,
i.e.,
I don't
the
want to
school.
pay any taxes for their filthy public schools. They hate God. They hate the Bible. They hate me. They hate the Reformation. They hate Jesus Christ. And we're going to pay for that with a property tax? That's one of my goals of this year is to bring a case in court in the county here, taking a property off the tax rolls.
Well, when okay, when we were going to school, things were bad. When I was going to school in the 70s and 80s. However, they've only got exponentially worse. They did not. It wasn't until the 1990s that they started including this whole LGB, PDQ, PBJ, SOL uh, nonsense. That didn't come until after I left school. So now, they have, you can choose, what your sex is, and say, well, on Monday I'm a boy, on Tuesday I'm a girl, on Wednesday I'm something else.
That ought to be illegal. That ought to be a crime. And anybody who teaches that ought to be tried for a capital offense. And when they're found guilty, then you execute them because they're killers of our culture in promoting that sin. They're murderers. So if you want to destroy our culture with those beliefs, there's a price to pay, and it's called your life. And that's how we
Well,
end that.
brother, I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm
I
just
know
simply
you don't, but for the listeners, I want them to know that there's certain of us men that hate it and that ought to be punished as a crime with capital death.
well, okay, if I can just give you a quick little anecdote.
Mhm.
Back in 2019, at our local public libraries, they started installing female hygiene products, i.e., tampons, in the men's restrooms. And that's no joke. I know that may sound like something you'd read in The Onion or the Babylon Bee. Um, and so
And
when
who was the white feminist that made that happen?
I don't know, but
I
she was
would like to
probably
find out her name.
for his name.
I'm pretty sure it's a her name, George.
Okay,
Could be a
so
him, but I'm sure it's a her. Because we gotta be equal. We gotta be equal. So tampons in our bathroom and tampons in theirs. You know that's what the savage homosexuals do after they're busy fornicating, having anal intercourse. They put a tampon up their rectum. Did you know that? I
uh,
found this out about a year ago. I was shocked. So it's all this perversion that they're putting upon these young people in school. And that's why these young people can't read or write. They don't know any history. They don't never have a favorite author. They don't read a book. They're nothing. They're totally illiterate, preoccupied with sexual perversion or the octagon or beating each other to death or something like some drugs, whatever. Terrible.
or what are the Kardashians doing, or
What are the
whatever.
fornicating? What are the whores, Kardashian whores doing with those black men? Busy fornicating, those
Okay,
women fornicating with those black men. Yeah, as an example, all these other white women that they ought to do the same thing.
Well, it's just like what was the old joke? Well, I know my favorite player's stats. I know how much money he made last year. I know how many home runs he hit, and I know how many illegitimate children he sired.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, and of course, this. I wasn't going to bring this up, but yeah, that is one of the purposes of Hollywood or Hollywood,
Yeah,
and the whole entertainment industry is to socially engineering us to accepting these things.
that's
You see,
right. So
well,
we
first,
become a weak, race mixed mulatto nation, easy to be beaten by the white Russians or the Asian Chinese or the Arab Muslims. Yep.
okay, to give you a concrete example, one of the popular bands of the 1970s was Kiss, which allegedly stands for Knights in the Service of Satan. Now, I'm not sure if that's accurate, but you basically have it's a Jewish Catholic band.
Yes, it is a Jewish Catholic band.
Okay, so you had Gene Simmons, whose real name is Chaim Wiseman or something like that,
Some Jewish, yeah. Mhm.
and who was actually born, I believe, in Tel Aviv. Then you have Peter Chris, and almost all the other band members are Catholic, but they had to put Gene Simmons as their frontman. Oh, see, they're Jewish, and they're
Yeah.
wearing makeup, and they have long hair,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're singing.
So when
Oh,
the new right comes to power, the new right comes to power. Say, look at all these Jews in place of power. Look how immoral they are. And Gene Simmons and Kiss. You got Howard Stern. You got Jerry Springer. You got Hugh Hefner. All these Jews demoralizing the culture, but they're busy working for the CIA. They're busy working for the Pope's intelligence community because you can't defeat a nation until you first demoralize.
okay, so and you're talking what 50 years ago and
Yeah,
45, 50 years ago when
yeah.
Kiss was popular. So decades ago, generations ago. And it wasn't just Kiss, but you had all these glam rock stars like David Bowie and Lou Reed who were pushing the whole transsexual stuff. And you had not well, yes, Prince, but you also had Queen. You had all these bands and artists who were pushing this agenda. Now, most people would have dismissed it. They would say, "Oh, that's cute, that's silly," you know. Oh, just keep it. If they just do it at the disco, no big deal. Well, it's not that they do it at the disco, but they play it on the radio. You buy their albums, and that, and
And
then
make them
people.
rich and make them millionaires so they can continue their sin and their destruction of the culture. That's right. That's why they're going
Okay,
to camps, George. Hitler took all those people and put them in the concentration camps on orders of the Jesuits. And it's going to be the same thing here. All these sodomites, these homosexuals, these lesbians, these trans, they're all going to the camps and they will deserve it. It's the judgment of God upon them using new right fascism to do it. And that's what he used Hitler for in many cases. Yep.
okay, so things that are say that used to be commonsensical, where that weren't even controversial or debatable, have now are now up to for debate. Say, well, how do we know 2 plus 2 equals 4? What's your proof
Yeah,
or
because I
evidence?
got two fingers here and I got two fingers there. And I put the two fingers up and I count them. One, two, three, four. That's how I know. That's absolute. There are
Well,
things that are absolute. That's what this, they don't want you to believe anymore. All these AI people, there are certain, it's all AI. It's all AI generated. Well, how do you know? There's certain things that are absolute. What goes up must come down. Two and two is four. That's absolute. Only someone insane would tell you something differently. And there's all sorts of insanity that we're surrounded with now. Go ahead.
well, there's all sorts of insanity that's now being weaponized and institutionalized.
Yes,
Like,
sir. Yes,
so you,
sir.
so it is an incontrovertible fact. The only way people can get Guillain-Barré, or however you pronounce it, the
Yeah,
temporary paralysis,
yeah.
are through.
That's right. That's what happened to my oldest son. I experienced that personally. So that's
Okay,
right. They have all this brainwashing. I was reminded of something when I was in high school years ago. Some teacher brought in some con out of prison. They brought him in there and wanted him to talk to us. Well, my dad's a cop, and I had another guy that was I was on the football team with. And I said, let's just hammer this guy. So I said, why are you in prison? And he wouldn't answer the question. I said, how? And Jim said, well, how many people did you kill to get in prison? And the guy about lost it. And then the guy, the deputy, their guard, that brought him in, said, here, put the handcuffs back on him again. I said, no, we got more questions for him. They finally took him out. He got so furious with us. No sympathy from us. That's what they wanted to create. Sympathy for the prisoners. Sympathy for the devil. Go ahead, George.
Okay. So you asked him questions. So we now live in a world where, you know, black is white and right is wrong, is up is down, and I know that's completely, CIA Jesuitical, and something that has been elevated to the point of dogma are people's views of that. I just made reference to them a moment ago, and you know, I mentioned an example that the only way people can that is 100% the case. Now,
100%. That's right. But
now,
the doctors don't want to admit that because the priests, the medical doctors, which are priests, are saying, are you speaking against our Hail Marys and our Fathers? Because all these drugs are nothing but a Hail Mary and our Father. Take this, say Hail Mary and our Father. These are drugs. And so are you against, you must be you must be intolerant. You're against all designed to destroy you. Yeah.
okay, so also here's a fact that most children who develop symptoms of autism of any form uh, display them at about the age of 2, so 24 months, which is, and they say, well, which is after they've received, their, I mean, sure, I'm not sure how many shots they get, but they say, well, they'll respond with the cliche, well, correlation doesn't mean causation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. Uh-huh.
Okay,
I
so
didn't vaccinate my last 2 sons. They're doing just fine.
are you meaning they haven't died yet?
They haven't died of some terrible disease because they weren't
Or they didn't
healthy.
kill
They're as
somebody?
healthy as can be.
Okay, and they didn't kill somebody else because they were.
Yes, they didn't go and breathe on anybody else and give them some terrible disease, even though that other individual was to be prevented from that he would not get all these diseases. So all people should be fine, and people that are in trouble. And so why aren't they dying left and right? Because people are dying left and right, sick, sick for life, and dying young.
Okay, well, there again, I mean, I'm sorry, forgive me for acknowledging the other side. But what they say is when you're talking
Well,
about a
one more
disease,
thing on the vaccinations. I was reading John Rappaport. The listener should get his daily uh, notice, John Rappaport. He's excellent on vaccines, and he just came up with an article how the Pfizer, or one of those centers, came up with a dumbed down little black boys, specially for them. So you ought to get his email. He gets a daily email, John Rappaport. Very good. Go ahead.
okay, so the problem with Mr. Rappaport or Dr. Rappaport is he says he doesn't blame the Vatican, it's the Jews.
Oh, of course, the Jews. What, 10, 11 million people in the world running everything? And they're so disorganized and so disagreeable to each other. How could they possibly do it? Compared
Okay,
with the kingdom of the Vatican Empire, you got to be stupid to say the Jews run it because you get ignorant of the power of the papacy. And that's what they don't want you to talk about. It's schools, it's education, it's money, all of its churches, all of its cathedrals, its hospitals. It's so filthy rich. It's richer than any combination of corporations in the world. But they don't run anything, right? They're just poor, inebriated, old men that are women wrenching their hands and, oh, what you got to intervene. They're savages, wolves. They hate and kill every day. Sometimes they're their own selves.
well, you know, well, I know we're going to be signing off fairly soon.
That's true.
We've been going on for what? Have we been on for an hour?
Yes, we have, George. It's time to go.
Okay, well, I don't want. Okay, well, out of respect to your audience, I won't sing you a goodnight song. and out of respect to myself and to you.
Okay, stay close to your microphone now, George. Okay.
Okay, I won't. Since we're
Always got to
signing.
remember that, George. Otherwise, you get muffled. No one can hear anything. It's all slurred, jawed together. Okay. So
Okay,
we'll post this, and hopefully the listeners will get something out of this. And so, go ahead and give your
okay,
contact information, George.
okay. Well, could I just mention one other point before I sign
I'll
off?
give you a dispensation.
Okay, so I guess
Pope Phelps is going to give you the dispensation to do it. Go ahead.
okay, so I guess last Sunday, whatever the date was, 28th, there was an incident at a Mormon church near Flint, Michigan. Point was it Grand Point or I forgot the town. And I okay, my internet's not working, so I can't look this up. But apparently, a 40-year-old Marine drove his truck into this Mormon temple near Flint, Michigan, and I guess he threw some Molotov cocktails and started opening fire on people. He shot 12 and killed 4, if I'm not mistaken, and he himself was killed, but I guess the police. So I
Yeah,
bring this up.
that's why every church, I don't care what denomination it is, every church, every synagogue has to have armed guards there. I mean, the Muslims do it, the Nation of Islam does it, and the Muslims do it. So every church, every synagogue, every whatever, they all need to have armed guards, and the people need to all be carrying concealed carry, whatever, in the church. So whenever these people try to pull this, you kill them, you shoot them dead, and the cops just come out and pick up the dead body. That's the only way to resolve this. The only way. Go ahead, George.
So, no, that notwithstanding, so this killer was, I guess, a Marine, was a former Marine. He was 40 years old, and I guess he didn't like Mormons. So this was, I guess, and the day before, Russell Nelson, the president of the Mormon Church, died. So this was the third event of September involving Mormons. So I guess they want to get that in the public consciousness.
Well,
Um,
they're going to drive the Mormons into the new right. That's what this is about. Mormons generally are keep to themselves. They're family people. My father said when he lived in Reno, he said if it wasn't for the Mormons, this place would be a GD Sodom and Gomorrah. So,
ah,
so I mean, the Mormons are generally conservative, and so we got to radicalize the Mormons. So we'll destroy a few of their churches, and so that's what they're doing now. Just like they did in the Baptist churches in Mississippi, and just like that white savage went into that black Church of God, killed what 8 or 10 people. They were black Christian people. They're driving everybody to extremism, and like I said, the only thing to do is you got to just have everybody carrying guns. A gun carrying culture is a safe culture. It's a respectful culture because anybody that wants to try to shoot you or the guy at the store, 4 or 5 people are going to pull their guns and shoot him first.
okay. So I picked this up from Peggy Hall from the Healthy American, and it turns out uh, the junior senator from Michigan, was it Alyssa Slotkin? She lives in the same town. Now she's Jewish. Now, prior to getting into politics, she worked for the CIA. She was an analyst for them, and she a major, I guess, backer for her was an organization was called Gun Safety Everywhere USA.
Yeah, that means take them all away. Then we'll be safe. I just saw
Okay,
this white man. He was in South Carolina. It just happened a few days ago. And he's before this board or whatever. He said, "What's wrong with you? This man here," and he showed his picture, he's black. He shot my daughter in the head in our house. Bang. And he says he's been in and out of jail 16 times. What's he doing out here 16 times? He needs to be locked up. And so my point being this, that they're radicalizing these blacks to kill as many white people as possible to drive the whites in the new right. And they're also using the Jews to do the same thing. All these Jewish gun grabbers. And never ever talk about the Jews for the preservation of firearms ownership. That's a great organization. Nobody talks to them. Nobody wants to interview them because they're carrying guns because they don't want to go through another Third Reich. Yeah.
uh,
So here's
okay,
this
so
Jewish CIA, yeah, and wants to take the guns. Of course, all these left-wing communist Jews want to take the guns because they're working for the
okay, so
Pope.
Okay, if I could just make my point,
Yeah, go ahead, George.
one of the founders for Gun Safety Everywhere USA was Thomas Molino, who I guess is an Italian Catholic. He got his undergrad degree from Boston College, which is Jesuit. He also went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Boston. So he founded this gun grabbing organization. However, the president of Gun Safety Everywhere USA is John Greenblatt.
Jew. So now we can blame the Jews for gun confiscation. You see how
And
these guys know this? They know how they're being used. They to continue to do it because they want to see every one of their people killed in North America. So they're behind it. And only the best Jews, the wealthy Jews, can escape to Israel. The rest have to be rounded up and taken to the camps. And so they're
uh,
feeding that fire with this kind of gun grabbing mentality.
okay,
George, go ahead and give your contact info, please.
okay. Could I just ask one question before we sign off?
I'll give you one more dispensation, but I don't give any more than two dispensations on any of our broadcasts. Okay.
Okay, so one of the things that Kirk brought up on one of his podcasts is he said, "Well, I'm not a big fan of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I want the most qualified person doing the job, especially something that is high skilled and high stress, such as being an airline pilot, being an air traffic controller, being a brain surgeon, cardiologist, a lawyer, whatever. I only want the creme de la creme, not somebody who got his position because there was a slot open
Because he's
or got
black. Yeah.
or
Or because
whatever."
it's a woman. Yeah. Or because he's Hispanic. Yeah. I'm going to tell you a story and then we got to go. I watched a special on the greatest baseball player who ever lived, who ever played. And that was, he was from Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente was a great man, and he was good to people. He was good to his Puerto Rican people, and Nicaragua had a terrible earthquake, and he was going down to Managua on an airplane, bringing supplies and food to them. And somebody had the bright idea of getting one of these old airplanes, and they overloaded it. And a pilot that was on that airplane, and he hadn't rested for 20 hours or something like that, and crashed the airplane in the sea, and that was the end of Roberto Clemente. Do you think a real legitimate pilot would have gotten in that airplane? Never. So here you have a pilot that's irresponsible, and he's going to kill the greatest baseball player who ever lived, Roberto Clemente. So that's an example of this, what? Equity, inclusion, and diversion, whatever they call it. It's all communism. It's so that so that the people involved don't have to go through the rigors of doing something excellently to then excel and be the best, as Roberto Clemente was. Yeah. So
Well,
we use that as an example against that. What is that? DEI, diversity, equality, inclusion, all communism.
well, I know you're signing out at this point, but just, the ball is in the air. But I brought this up to you before. Do you know who?
Stay close to your microphone.
Okay, so do you know who Christian Barnard was?
No.
Oh, okay, Dr. Christian Barnard. Back in 1967, I believe December the 3rd of that year, he performed the first heart transplant surgery in South Africa. Now, Barnard was South African, but he was Dutch Reformed. His ancestors came over from
Yeah.
Holland,
Yeah.
way over when.
He was a white Protestant South African. Yeah.
Yes, and of
Dutch.
course, now the recipient only survived 18 days, but those 18 days that he would have survived, that he would have survived. So that is, you could say, well, that's an isolated example. And well, when you need something like that, a heart transplant, you need the best of the best.
That's right.
Now, if there are blacks who can do that, or Hispanics, or whoever, have at it.
That's right. But I guarantee you they've been trained by some white man or some Jew. The brilliant of the races. The Germans and the Jews are the most brilliant of all the races. They taught them. They didn't come up with it themselves. How do we know that? Just take a look at Africa. How have the blacks prospered in the last 2,000 years? How have they? You know what they've done recently? They've killed all the rhinos in what Kenya. Good. They gave white man's weapons and they went out and killed all the rhinos. Heck, great going, black man. You're really conserving and you're using white man's weapons to destroy the beautiful rhino. Great. Anyway, we got to go, George. So give me contact information.
Okay. If people have any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, if they like me to cover a topic or go over it again, please email me at georgewidger1969@gmail.com. That's GEORWIDGER. If they didn't get that, they can get it from you. And hopefully we'll be on soon.
Amen. Okay. Well, thank you, George, for being on the podcast today. Please go to my website, 247worldradio.com. And purchase my ebook. I have a broadcast there also. Go to VaticanAssassins.org. You can purchase my ebook there. I have other things. I have some things on Malcolm X you might want to get too. I mean, I have a series of things that would be of interest to you. And lastly, please send your gifts to RBT, P.O. Box 306, Newmanstown, Pennsylvania, 17073. Or you can use the Pope's PayPal at rbpbdonate@comcast.net, rbpbdonate@comcast.net, or you can use my Cash App at #Eric, ERIC, John, JON, Phelps, PHELPS. Appreciate it. Every little bit counts. Every little bit helps. So, Brother George, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Well, thank you, brother. And we'll talk to you soon.
All righty. I'm going to